Rebecca here, and this is my February wrap-up. February was not as good of a month as January was, but that's okay. I still read a bunch. And I'm very excited that it's March because winter is slowly drifting away, and that's exciting because I hate winter. So, let's talk about what I read. The first book I finished in February was The Particular Sadness of Lemon Cake by Amy Bender. I still may do a full review of this. I haven't really decided yet. This is a novel about a young girl who discovers that she can taste the emotions of the people who cook the food that she eats. She can also taste where the ingredients come from and where they were made and all kinds of crazy stuff. But more than that, it's the story of a family who's kind of just trying to hold it all together despite their individual wants and wishes, and how sometimes within a family, what one member of a family might want does not necessarily cohere with the other members of the family's wishes. It was really a great read. It had so much more depth to it than I expected, and I highly recommend it. I've previously read some of Bender's short stories, which I think I enjoyed more than I enjoyed this novel, but I still think that this novel was great, and it would be a very nice little springtime read as we get into spring here. So I believe I gave this 3 out of 5 stars overall. I would definitely recommend it. Next, I carried on with my reread or re-listen of the Harry Potter books, and I listened to Harry Potter and the Goblet of Fire on audiobook. This is my original hardback. It's oh god, I lost the dust jacket somewhere along the way. It's falling apart. But this is actually my favorite book in the series, and I was thrilled to listen to it. Of course, 5 out of 5 stars. Yay. Then I read The Girl Who Fell from the Sky by Heidi Duro. I had been looking forward to reading this, and I, unfortunately, was a bit underwhelmed. I think one of the problems with it is that it is kind of categorized loosely as YA, and YA is not my thing. Overall, I gave this book 2 stars. It is about a young girl who's kind of dealing with a family tragedy that I can't give much away about, and she's biracial, so at the same time she's kind of growing up and learning about what being biracial means to her and what it means to kind of society as a whole. I thought that thematically this book was really interesting. I just don't think it was as well done as it could have been. There are a lot of different perspectives, and they all kind of come together in the end, but really by the end I just wanted it to be over. There's kind of a mystery going on throughout it, and I kind of figured out more or less what was going to happen about halfway through, so I wasn't really strung along. Yeah, I don't know that I'd recommend this to anybody, and like I said, I just gave it 2 stars. Then I read The Book of Strange New Things. I buddy read this with a whole ton of people who are all lovely. I did not hate this as much as some other booktubers did this month. I ended up giving the book overall 3 stars. The Book of Strange New Things is kind of sci-fi-esque, but it's very literary. So, if you've read Cloud Atlas by David Mitchell, there are definitely, sci-fi threads throughout that book, but it's very literary in feel. It's in no way hard sci-fi. So, this is kind of similar in the way that it's written. And this is about a man named Peter who is recruited to be a missionary on a new planet that humans are colonizing, and he's a missionary to the alien species that live there. And it's simultaneously about his wife Beatrice, who's left behind on Earth. So I didn't love this. It kind of dragged on for me, but it gave me a lot to think about, and I definitely made some personal connections with this story that I don't want to get into too much here, but it was interesting, kind of how I connected to it personally, and for that reason it had a more profound emotional impact on me than I feel like it has for other people. I don't really know what else to say about it. Like I said, I gave it 3 stars. I thought it was good. It was worth the time I spent reading it. I highly prefer The Crimson Petal and the White by Michelle Faber, which I read last year and loved. So I think that's the better of the 2, but I wouldn't give this up. And I know a lot of people that I read it with especially really didn't care for it, but I didn't hate it. So there's that. Next, I read Spinster by Kate Bullock. The subtitle is Making a Life of One's Own. This is kind of part memoir, part cultural studies. It's the story of Kate Bullock's kind of exploration into what she wanted out of life, and when she decided that she was not going to go the traditional route of marriage and babies and all that. And it's about the women, particularly famous authors, who kind of had similar revelations in their life and inspired Kate Bullock. I particularly liked the bits about Edith Wharton because we all know that I love Edith Wharton, but I thought this was good. I gave this 3 stars. It may not have been the best book to read while I'm trying to plan a wedding. So it's pretty much all about, you know, how women shouldn't be forced into roles of wives and mothers just because of societal pressure and expectations, which I really appreciated. So if you're interested, I do recommend this book. I thought it was a good read. I read a handful of graphic novels throughout the month, which I'm not going to talk about too much in detail here because I'll talk about them in my comics wrap-up. So I read the 2nd volume of Lock and Key, which is Head Games. This is by Joe Hill and Gabriel Rodriguez. This was wonderful. I gave this, I think, 3 or 4 stars. I read the 1st volume of Descender by Jeff Lemire. If you follow my comics wrap-ups, you know that I just read all of Sweet Tooth pretty much in the month of January by Jeff Lemire, and I loved that. So I was really excited to give this a shot, and I absolutely love this. The artwork, which is by Dustin Nguyen, is absolutely, absolutely amazing. And I know I said I'm going to talk about this more in my comics wrap-up, but in case you're interested, woo! Really beautiful stuff here. So I'm really excited to see where this series goes, and I gave this one 4 stars. I read the 1st volume of Bitch Planet. This has gotten a lot of hype. This is by Kelly Sue DeConnick and, oh dear, and a bunch of people. All kinds of people. Kelly Sue DeConnick, and then the co-creator is Valentine De Landro, but there are a ton of people involved in this project. I enjoyed this. I am glad that I waited a little while to read it because when I first heard about it and ordered it, it was getting a ton of hype. And since then, I feel like the hype has died down a little bit. Some people that I know have read it and not enjoyed it quite as much as they thought they would. But I enjoyed it. I gave it 4 stars. I'm really excited to see where this series goes. And finally, I read the 2nd volume of The Wicked and the Divine. This is by Kieran Gillen, Jamie McKelvey, Matthew Wilson, Clayton Cowles, and others. I did not enjoy this as much as the 1st volume, but I still enjoyed it, and I gave it 3 stars. Then I picked up a couple of fantasy novels. I was kind of preparing for the shortlist nominations for the BookTube's SFF Awards, which I will do my reaction video to the shortlist soon. I'll have that up in the next day or so. So I read 2 fantasy books this month, and both of them did make the shortlist, so that's exciting. So I read The 5th Season by N.K. Jemisin, and holy shit. This is the best book I've read in a really long time. It's so good. I'm going to do a full review on this because it's still kind of new. A lot of people haven't read it yet. It was just released in 2015, of course, and since it's on the shortlist, I would love to talk about it more. So, read this, do this. It's fantastic. 5 stars. And I also read A Darker Shade of Magic by V.E. Schwab. I was not as impressed with this as I was with the 5th season, but it was still a fun and really engaging read. I found the characters to be a little tropey, but the world building was interesting and the story is interesting. This is about a man named Kel who can travel between all these different Londons that exist like simultaneously. So there's Red London and Grey London and White London, and he can travel through doors from one London to the other, but they're all very different. And there's kind of this mysterious Black London that was done away with, and you know, he has to go on an adventure. It was really fast-paced, so definitely like a light, easy, fun read. I gave this 3 out of 5 stars. And lastly, this month I did another reread. I reread Alice in Wonderland by Lewis Carroll in this beautiful edition that I got for Christmas. This is illustrated by Salvador Dali. I believe in the 60s, Dali was commissioned to do a series of works specifically for the text, and they are some of the most incredible things I have ever seen. Can you see that? It's beautiful. So I've always loved this story. I still love this story. I gave this book 5 stars. The art just elevated it. I hadn't read it in about 6 years, so I was really happy to revisit it, and it was nice and light. I read a lot of like kind of not fluffy books, but fluffier than what I normally read because I was having a rough month emotionally. But this was, you know, delightful as always, and if you can get your hands on this edition, I highly recommend that you do because it's absolutely beautiful. So yes, that is all I read in February. I Would say definitely my favorite book of the month was the 5th season, other than the rereads. And my least favorite was The Girl Who Fell from the Sky. If you have read any of these books and would like to talk about them, we can do that in the comments. And if you have any questions, please let me know. I will see you all soon. Happy March. Bye.